Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Fallout Friday. So welcome back to County Crossing, where the General here is going to be working on his Brahmin Barn and his Chem Lab. As always, hit those buttons if you'd like to, and let's get stuck in. So, as I say, we're up at County Crossing, and we're going to go over where the mute fruit were. So you see I've cleared the ground out. It's the largest reasonably flat area. That's where I want to put the barn. Didn't intend to use concrete foundations or either of any kind for this one, because I thought Brahmin aren't going to like that very much, so bare floor it is, bare earth. Yeah, and as you can see, these walls were a pain in the neck from the get-go. Which is clearly a strong start there. Just didn't want to snap. We'll work around that. Yeah, if you're wondering why there's a floating platform there, it's because I got the Minuteman quest to come free this place, so acquire the place rather, absolutely ages ago. I think it was a kidnapping quest, thinking about it. And after I got it, I had no plans for anything with it or any idea what I wanted to do, so I just stuck a couple of turrets on the platform to get some defence on the place, connected a provisioner to it, and just left it until I came up with this idea. So I'll eventually get this door frame in. Honest I will, I promise. There we go. Yeah, something about the snapping on this is just really obstinate. When I don't want it to go around the corner, it goes around the corner. And when I do want it to go around the corner, it insists on sitting straight. I was also going to include a little bit of me making a small junk wall around what will become a Razorgrain patch. It's going to end up sitting next to the barn, but I looked at the footage back on it, and I was just sort of starting to fiddle around with some of the modded items, and to be honest, the footage was awful. It's like, yeah, like I hadn't got a clue what I was doing again. Figured it out eventually, but the footage I came up with was rubbish, so we'll skip over that painful part. Pretty pleased with the result though. So, mixing up the textures a little bit, trying to make sure it doesn't match up too much. Figure the damage when the bombs hit, assuming the barn survived it, or whatever the wood was before it was a barn, wouldn't be even, so makes it look nice and scrappy. Yeah, as I said, the idea behind this is to produce, use Brahmin to produce fertiliser and turn it to jet to sell for a profit. Especially as my character is now somewhat broke. On the other hand, mods have dropped now, so I don't need the Brahmin Barn. I can just bring it in, cheat it into the game without any problem. Which I would feel bad about doing, because it's just facilitating the building and not affecting the gameplay, the rest of the gameplay rather. It doesn't bother me too much, so... On the other hand, I figure there's probably people out there who don't want to use mods at all, or can't for some strange reason, and they might find this a little useful. Certainly hope so. And I spent a lot of time building it, well, a bit of time building it, and had a bit of fun doing it, so I thought, why ditch the idea? So we've got all the walls into place, got a few windows in. And when I figure out how not to be a dumbass, oh yeah, I'm putting the doors on first, we'll just pillar glitch the whole thing, choose hold all, and move it into place where I want it. Seems I had to start a little further away with the snapping issues I was having. There we go. Yep, that's me being dumb. Figure out I can't see a damn thing. There we go. Somewhere. There we go. And do it from this side, and it's much easier. It's a fairly simple build, this one, but I'm quite happy with how it's turned out. It looks quite cool. I've actually hidden the Chem Lab away in the hayloft. Not so much because producing chems is illegal in the Commonwealth, which I suppose it isn't really with no institutionalised system of justice. Not at this stage, anyway. But a Chem Lab and the facilities to produce chems obviously are going to be a prime target for raiders. So it's very unlikely anybody producing that sort of thing is going to want to advertise where they're doing it. So that's my justification for hiding it. Plus it meant rather that I could fill up make the hayloft look full anyway, and not have to overdo it. Save me a lot of time doing it that way. We'll see what I mean in a second. Well, in a few minutes. So we'll get a staircase on there eventually. It would be very easy to have the barn end up really tall, which I wanted to avoid because it sort of looked ridiculous. This way, I think it's come out roughly the same height, maybe slightly lower than the house I repaired over on the other side. I actually built this in the same sitting as the house, but I ended up with way too much footage for one video. Just split it in half. So we'll get these windows in. So whilst they may not want to advertise what they're doing, a bit of light to see what you're doing never hurts, especially when you're messing around with chemicals. The other argument kind of goes out the window a little bit when I used lanterns to illuminate it. Let's just hope they don't blow themselves right out of the Commonwealth. Nice and easy. So yeah, as I say, it's the first time I've used mods on this build. You'll see them towards the end. The only stuff I've really used is unlock settlement items, build the junk half wall thing, which you'll see in a bit, and I used OT Decorator to put a few bits and pieces in. And by the time I'd done the decoration and the tour, which I did a little bit later because I needed the time to get the Brahmin in. As you can imagine, Brahmin are doing exactly what they always do, causing havoc. So I'm really glad of OC Decorator, because if settlers will knock my junk decoration around the place, you can bet Brahmin are going to cause absolute chaos. I've actually got a build on a separate save in the workshop house at Sanctuary, which I've actually got a video on, funnily enough. I'm kind of curious as to whether or not the junk decoration I have done in that is likely to get knocked about eventually by Brahmin wandering around the place, particularly if I put provisioners or Trashcan Carla shows up in Sanctuary. Because that workshop house tends to get a lot of Brahmin appearing inside, particularly in the living room space, the dining room. And that's exactly where a load of my junk decoration is. But I've hardly picked that save up in ages, because I've been so engrossed in playing this one. Or building with this one. I've actually done a huge amount of questing since Nuka World, to be honest. So busy with this. Though I did work way through the Secret of Cabot House the other day, which for some reason I've never got around to doing before. I quite enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun. So anyway, rambling aside, I really like these roof pieces with the rafters on them. And I had something of a dumb moment when I realised that I couldn't make them match up, which I can get over, but as you can see, I can't get into the hayloft. And I couldn't run across it even if I could for the same reason. So I was a bit annoyed about that. But I take them out and run them across the building rather than along it. Somehow it doesn't look quite so complete, or just quite so right without those rafters to me. So we'll pull a few of those out. Quite pleased that these managed to spin around and slot back in nice and easily. Sometimes when you're trying to do that, the pieces just don't want to cooperate, they refuse to snap back in. So, but these all just went in neat and tidy, no problems at all. Much better than the walls were. So it's starting to take shape now. Looking back on it, I'm pretty pleased with the decision not to put a floor on the thing. The dirt floor looks much more the part, I think. One thing I do have a slight aversion to, never really worked out why, is using the roof pieces with holes in. There's something about it I don't like. And maybe the idea of rainwater pouring in my own roof doesn't appeal to me. But I can't imagine the Brahmin will be overjoyed about getting rained on in the barn either. Not that the settlers probably care. This is a little bit fiddly, especially trying to line it up straight. But pretty basic really, just hold it all with a pillar straight in. They sink ever so slightly into the edges of the wall as well, which neatens things up quite nicely. I think when we're done, I ended up with stalls and feeding troughs for 13 Brahmin in this place, which isn't a vast amount, but I think they produce 2 fertiliser each a day, so that should keep me reasonably stocked in jet when I come to produce it, or fertiliser for the jet anyway. The drawback to using this space though is with the uneven ground. See, some of the feed troughs are higher up than others. As you'll see in a minute, the Brahmin have a habit of climbing all over each other and all over the barricades that's supposed to keep them apart.
A lot of people out here could use a hand.
True enough. So, tour time. Now that the basic structure's built. So as you see, I've gone into the nuka world decorations and put some hay bales down. Most of our Brahmin in at this stage. I think I'm just one short. I've got a bit of a habit of clustering down that end. These are the dry rock gulch feed troughs as well, because I think they look much better than the bathtubs do. If they've managed to find enough wood to build an entire barn, they'd find enough wood to build a few wooden feed troughs. How they're going to find that many bathtubs, I don't know, so makes more sense to me. As you can see, I've stuck the hay bales across the front so it looks like it's full, but in fact, it's not. So tucked away behind the hay bales, we have our little chem station in the corner there, and our facilities for producing huge quantities of jet, packing it up, shipping it off. And as I say, I've used OC decorators to put the items on the shelf and on the table, which I'm extremely glad of for a reason you're about to see. But it's pretty basic. I was just having a quick bat through it. I don't imagine I'll be going overboard with OC decorator anyway. And there's our reason right there, because it wasn't there when I came up the stairs. So yeah, so I don't imagine I'll overdo it with the OC decorator, but it's nice to be able to put a few bits and pieces out and make the place look a little more functional, a little more used. Now speaking of using it, if you try and use that chem station because of where I put the lantern on the rafters, you can't actually get back out again. I'll have to quick travel out or use the workshop menu. So, this is the knee-high wall I've put around the Razorgrain field. Oh look, cow sticking out the window. And yeah, it's pretty basic. It's just to kind of mark it off really, rather than anything else. I'm going to put big walls around the place. It just doesn't look complete until you've done that. But as I say, the footage was really dull, so quite happy with packing that motorbike in there and showing some sandbags under it to keep it upright. A few tyres, a little car dumped in the corner. Yeah, nice and simple.
Sure hit us hard.
Yeah, I had a super mutant attack a while back. To be honest, I think they finished him off before I even noticed. There were actually more turrets up there at one stage, but it got in the way. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And I will be speaking to you soon.